Hi, Jody. Yes, so this is a really good question about changing habits and behaviors and coping skills and lifestyle when we go on the Sinclair method to cut back on drinking. I have been a coach in this field for 5-ish years now, and I worked with so many people who, during the pandemic, their drinking got out of control and they started the Sinclair method. But to your point, this method is more about than just taking a medication to drink less. There's so much we need to do to modify our habits, our coping strategies, and just the life that we're living day to day in order to really transform our relationship with alcohol and alcohol's role in our life and how we see alcohol. I often equate alcohol, my relationship to it, like a toxic lover, to where it was really passionate and incredible and I loved my relationship with alcohol, but there was this very dark side to it that was very destructive and ultimately not something that was sustainable. And so I can appreciate where a lot of people can be at, where on one hand drinking is really serving a purpose in their life, or excessive drinking, it can numb us out and help us cope with difficult life situations, and it can become really challenging as well, because that pattern we develop can become its own very ingrained habit, and that becomes something that's really hard to change. So even though, it can be helpful in some ways, drinking, short term, it can also be quite destructive. And so when we get on the Sinclair method to cut back on drinking, for me, just as an example, I was taking the naltrexone and I could see that it was quieting my desire for alcohol. My craving for alcohol was fading away. I just felt like, I don't really want to drink. I don't really have this overwhelming urge to drink. But then I saw myself continuing to drink anyway because I was bored, or because it was something that I did every night for 10 years, or because I had a stressful day, or because I had a good day. What I realized, and what a lot of people, I hear them say on the Sinclair method, is that they realize how much their drinking is done out of habit, especially once the medication starts working, because the medication starts to quiet that craving. But then we start to see the habit at play where, like I said, it's like, I don't really want to drink, but here I am drinking anyway. Kind of like, if we're not really hungry, but here we are eating that bag of chips anyway. It's like, clearly we're not eating for hunger, we're eating for an emotional reason. And the same thing can be true with naltrexone and the Sinclair method, where the medicine and the protocol starts working, but here we are kind of fighting the protocol and letting our drinking habits kind of overpower what the medication is doing. So this is a very real challenge for people on the Sinclair method. That's why in our program we often say that naltrexone and the Sinclair method are 50% of it. It's a crucial 50%. I would not be where I am today without that treatment. But the other 50% is how we're meeting the medicine halfway. How are we having goals each week that will help us to gradually shift our drinking habits? How are we practicing new coping tools that are healthier? How are we thinking about, our future goals and where we want to be in 6 months or 12 months from now? How are we thinking about and really meditating on all of the consequences that are coming as a result of our drinking? And, if we don't change something, where are we going to be in a year from now? So this is kind of the other half of the treatment protocol, where we have to meet the method halfway and work to gradually change our habits, find new coping tools, and really question and challenge some of the unhelpful beliefs that we have about alcohol. And just as an example of that in my own life, I was someone who, I was like a nightly bottle or two or even more wine drinker. And so wine was like my best friend, and it was something I turned to on a good day, on a bad day. I loved my relationship with wine. I loved my wine glass. I loved the red wine I would drink. I just loved everything about it. But as I got going on this protocol, I remember being a few months in, and I was there drinking my wine like I normally did after a stressful day at work. And it just hit me to where I realized that, if I really want to be somebody who doesn't rely on alcohol as a coping tool anymore, if I want to be somebody who has this control back over alcohol, has this balanced relationship with alcohol, then I can no longer rely on it as a coping tool at the end of a stressful day. And that might be an obvious realization to some, but it really hit me differently, to where I realized that my wine habit that I had was a very ingrained coping tool that even though I was taking naltrexone and I didn't want to drink as much, I was still reaching for that wine, anytime I had a bad day or a good day. It was like a default choice that I was so used to turning to, and I hadn't really given myself a chance to practice other coping tools. And if I wanted to, again, have this better relationship with alcohol, wine had to be something that, maybe I enjoyed it with a nice Italian dinner or I had champagne in a wedding, but it wasn't going to be this tool that I turned to like, it's a bad day. I had a bad day. I need to drink a bottle of wine tonight. And so that was a very sobering, no pun intended, realization where I realized like, I have to break up with alcohol as I've known it. Yes, I can keep alcohol in my life because the Sinclair Method allows that, but I needed to have a healthier relationship with it. Like I always look to my husband because he doesn't have an issue with alcohol, and he has like all these rules around his drinking just because he realizes alcohol is addictive and he never wants to cross over that line. And so he never drinks during the day. He never drinks when he's upset. He always drinks with food, and I've never seen him drink more than 3 drinks in a setting. And so I would look to him as like this person who had this normal relationship with alcohol, and my relationship with alcohol was nothing like that. I always drank when I was upset. I drank on an empty stomach to get the buzz more quickly. I loved to drink during the day and get drunk. And so I realized that I had to really change my relationship with alcohol at its core. And one of the biggest changes was finding other coping tools. And it was not an overnight thing. It was this process of giving myself the ability to practice other coping tools. Normally I'd kind of get home from work at 5 o'clock and I'd be taking my naltrexone and opening up my bottle of wine. And so I started to challenge that a bit, and I was pushing out the start time. Like, okay, I'm not going to start drinking till 7, and I'm going to go to the gym first, or go for a walk, or cook dinner, or go to the grocery store, or take a bath, or just do something else to help interrupt that habit. And doing these little things with consistency over a long period of time are really what helped me transform my relationship with alcohol, alcohol's role in my life, and it simultaneously helped me to learn other coping skills and other ways to spend my time, rediscover hobbies that I used to do, and gradually change my habits. Also, just recognizing that there's a lot of people out there that don't rely on alcohol as a coping tool. So knowing that objectively, there's a lot of other ways that people are coping with stress and whatever else life throws at us outside of alcohol. And I just had to seek out these things that were helpful for me in that way. And like I said, it was a gradual process, but I think the key really is to keep trying and doing these small changes with consistency. Like in our program, we encourage our members to set goals each week, like 1 to 3 small goals that they can focus on that will help them inch closer to where they are going with regards to changing their relationship with alcohol through the Sinclair Method. And it's also why we encourage our members to give this treatment time to work. We typically tell people to give it a year. Some people will get there more quickly. Others will even take longer than that. But for people to be in the mindset that when we're starting on this treatment, we're really changing something in a significant way with our relationship with alcohol. And oftentimes it's taken us years or decades to get where we are in our unhealthy drinking habits. And so it's going to take time to unlearn that and to change those habits and really redefine your relationship with alcohol and create more balance in your relationship with alcohol. So giving it time and just being consistent with doing, one small thing each day that's a little bit different that can help you gradually change the unhelpful habits, break the unhelpful habits that you have, and help you form healthier habits that you want to have in the future when this is no longer an issue for you. So give yourself grace through this process. And as always, if you want more support, that's why we have our program, is to really help people through the Sinclair Method, guiding them through this treatment day by day with coaching support, video courses, online groups, an awesome community, and it's all private and online and in a judgment-free community where we're just here to support you in reaching your personal goals with changing your relationship with alcohol as long as it takes. So hang in there. Thank you so much for your question.